Could you state your name and your profession and your job here?
Okay, so my name is Linda Rogers, and I'm the Executive Director here at Valley Restart Shelter. And my job is to oversee the operations, the financial backing that allows us to stay open, and then all of the residents.
What do you do here at the Valley?
We're an emergency homeless shelter. We have beds for 35 people, 5 single women, 5 single men, and 9 families. People can stay for up to 90 days, and typically in a year, their average stay is about 6 weeks. So they
I wanted to know, in the recent years, have you seen a decline or a rise in the amount of people that come and go here?
There is, I think there is an increase of people who come here, and that there's a preamble to that. So in Riverside County, there are 4 homeless shelters.
4?
4. There is 1 in Riverside, 1 here, 1 in North Palm Springs, and 1 in Indio. The 3 that aren't here are all nighttime only shelters, which means that you go in at 4:30 or 5 in the early evening. You have dinner, take a shower, you may wash your clothes, sleep, and in the morning you're back out on the street at 7.
Oh, that.
And here, people are here 24 hours a day. So I think that our success rate, which is pretty high, has to do with that we really intensively case manage these people so that when they come in, we're looking at what needs to happen in order for them to successfully be housed again. And we spend our time and energy doing that. So if they need a job, we help them with resumes, with job searching, and making sure that they're employed. When they get a job, we save their money, not in the bank, in the safe. Because one of the things that happens when you put money in the bank is they give you a card, you know, where you see something and you go, oh, I want that, and then you swipe the card, and the money goes out of the bank, and you get to walk away with what it is that you wanted. And our goal is that people get housing, so they need to save their money for housing. So of the people who stay here, last year there were about 307 people, 111 of them were children. 86% of them moved on to a higher level of self-sufficiency in housing. So that meant they weren't on the street, they weren't in jail, they weren't in another shelter, and they weren't in a motel. So they could have been renting a room, they could have been sharing with a friend, they could have been reunited with their family, or they could be renting their own apartment or their own house. Of the people who stayed here, 64% increased their income during the time that they were here. So that's the 307. The part that's sad is that there were 347 applicants who never got a bed here. So they didn't get a bed because there was a waiting list, or because they had what we would call a barrier to being able to be here. So those barriers could be that they were on parole, that they had a warrant out for their arrest, that they had a violent charge, or that they had a sexual charge. So, or they didn't have a California ID. So those are the 5 things that would keep someone from receiving services here. Because I have children here, and I need to be able to assure the parents that this is a safe place. So those are 1. So we do a criminal background check on everybody who comes.
That's good.
So the background check we also do for people who eat dinner here. We have a soup kitchen here every night. There's about 500 people in a year that are able to take advantage of that. So there's the people here, and then there are the people who come from the street. And in Last year, we served a little more than 42,000 meals. And then we also have public showers, because we thought it would be really nice if people had an opportunity to eat next to somebody who didn't smell like they needed to take a shower. So for all of those services, the same 5 barriers. And so some of the people who have been eating dinner here have been eating dinner here because this is a good place to come, because the food's good, because they enjoy the people. The oldest one right now is 91 years old, and he's been coming for a number of years. We have an organ in the multi-purpose room, which is where we do our meals, and every evening he comes early so that he can play the organ for other people. And so he and his wife are just pretty delightful.
So it's him and his wife.
Yeah, he and his wife.
Who's the youngest?
We have had we've had 4 babies born here this year, so that's the youngest. We have an interesting population is our young adults. So young adults between the ages of 18 and 24, this is a very difficult place for them, because typically how someone ends up here is in that age bracket is that they could be in foster care, and when they turn 18 and the last check comes from the government to pay for their housing, the foster parents say goodbye. Or it could be that that a parent says, you're 18 now, you need to go make it on your own. The reason that this is not a good place is not because of anything that's going on here, but because typically structure and rules are something that this place is built on, but is very difficult for young adults, because they're still busy wanting to experiment with the yeses and nos of life, and they don't have a goal. And if I had to guess, it has to do with that they don't have parents or grandparents who support having a goal and moving towards that goal. We have, there are some housing programs that are for young adults. One of them is called Operation Safe House, and they have a program in both Riverside and in the desert, where they will house you in an apartment that you share with somebody else. They help you go to college or get your GED and diploma, save money, buy a car, all of those things. But their program also is very structured. And theirs is a no drug, no alcohol, and often that becomes a huge temptation. And as soon as there's drugs or alcohol, they're asked to leave. This also is a drug and alcohol-free program. We drug test people when they come in, and then we drug test people randomly thereafter. And it is 0 tolerance. So it had to do with if you use during this time, then you just lost your bed. So unfortunately, this weekend, actually, I think it was Sunday, we had to have a husband and wife. They don't have any dependent children, and they both drank beer. Came in and I said, "Wow, it smells like alcohol." And she said, "No, it's my gum. It's spearmint." And I go, "It smells like alcohol to me. So I just need to have you breathe in the breathalyzer." And so she blew something that allowed us to know that she had been drinking, and so she was exited from the program.
So just immediately you can
Immediately, yeah. Probably an exception to that would be if it were a mom or a dad and they had kids.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have them leave if we're looking at it's going to be dark, because I don't want kids to be on the street in an unsafe situation. So I would probably say you will need to leave in the morning.
Do you exit the parents sometimes and just leave the children
No.
when it's bad?
No, but what we do is if there's a 2-parent family, I would exit the person who was using the drugs and leave the other parent and the children here. So if it were the mom who were using or drinking, I would leave the dad and the kids here, or the reverse of that.
What about signs of like abuse in homeless families and stuff like that? Have you ever seen that?
The abuse meaning, so sometimes when people come to the shelter, they are fleeing from a domestic violence situation. And so there's that kind of situation. It's very difficult we have not been successful at getting people into domestic violence shelters because of their criteria. Typically, their criteria is your life at risk now. So when they're here, their life is not at risk. How I describe what people who are involved in domestic violence, what they need, it is, we are like an ace bandage, and they have a compound fracture of their leg. So they need a specialist who's going to fix things, stabilize them, and then allow for healing to take place. And so this is not the best possible situation for them, but it is better than being in harm's way. So we would take them. And I would say that typically somebody would not come here if their abuser was also from this town. They would seek shelter somewhere else, so that the abuser can't just drive by and go, "Is that Lily?"
Yeah.
and then drive in. So we are mandated reporters of child abuse. So if there is any kind of child abuse, we're required to report that. We also have, as residents who are here, people who are working on regaining custody of their children. So Child Protective Services has removed their children from their custody. They're in a program in order to be reunified, and they're far enough into that program and into their recovery that they are now getting unsupervised overnight visits, with the child being returned in the very near future. So we have a lot of families that are reunited here as a result of the changes that their parents have made. There's also elder abuse that goes on. So elder abuse could be, a lot of times that is financial. So somebody is, I'm the caregiver for my parent or my uncle, or as a result of a job, and I steal, or I mismanage their money, or I withhold food, or I am neglectful, and so that adult ends up being here as a result of something that happened. So about 11% of the people who are here are seniors who stay here. About 12% are veterans, and we try never to send a veteran away. We make space for them so that they're not living on the streets. We have the success rate that we have somewhere between 84 and 96% in the last 12 years. It fluctuates. It's not in my control because I don't have control over any of what someone does. But in the 13 years that I've been here, only twice have we ever had to say at the end of somebody's successful time here that we didn't know where they were going. They were unable to find housing or unable to find a job. And of the somewhere between 4 and 16% that would make up the difference between the 84 and the 97 or 93%, people are discharged for breaking rules. So they would be somebody who maybe drank, used drugs, threats of violence, destruction of property, staying out overnight, not being compliant with the program. So we have a write-up system. It has to do with their X amount of write-ups that you're allowed to get for various things before we consider you non-compliant.
Are they allowed to come back?
No. So this is a one-shot opportunity. So it's a lot like you have strep throat. I have ampicillin, an antibiotic. If the ampicillin works, your strep throat goes away. But if it doesn't work, and you're not able to grasp what it is that you need to do and be able to change that, the only thing that I have is what didn't work for you. So I'm not going to give you another dose of what didn't work. Even though you go, just give me one more chance, just give me one more chance. So, but we are very clear with people when they come in that this is a one-shot through. You have this opportunity, take advantage of it. And because we have case managers that will do everything that needs to be done in order for them to be successful, but we don't have anyone who's going to carry anybody. It has to do with when people come here, they have to, their mindset needs to be, I'll do anything. Because then their hands are open, their heart's open, their head's open, and change could happen. When somebody has their hand closed, I can't put anything in it. So when I hear the but, and I go, you know, and it doesn't stay in. And so it is about taking a mindset and changing it. And for me, what it feels like has to do with, you know, you're entitled to be the best possible person you could be and to live to your potential. And I believe that's possible. Now, if the person in the mirror doesn't believe that's possible, then we can work on changing that. And if you go, but, then we're stuck, you know, because you've just limited, you know, your capabilities.
How many people come to Valley Restart Shelter for your service in one day, or in like a week?
So I can't tell if what you're asking is for new services. So Monday through Friday from 9 until 1 we'll see people. So I just saw the gentleman that you watched leave and there's another woman that's sitting out there. So we may interview 10, 15 people, 3 people, 2 people in a week. We have people that come every day to put in applications for dinner or for showers. So I would say typically at night, as well as the people who are here, we could have 35 visitors, you know, that are here. And we also have people who come in who need something, they need referrals, they need help, and they know that they can't wait for our waiting list, so we talk to them about the resources that are available in our community as well as throughout the county, and see if we can, you know, hook them up that way. And then we have people who call and for various, you know, do you have rental assistance, do you have utility assistance, you know, do you know any place, you know, who can, you know, take my uncle, and it's like, we can't take anybody. And so I'm not sure that I could give you a definite, but I think in that the 307 and the 360 something, you can hear, wow, somewhere around 700 people in a year for shelter and more than 500 for dinner.
That's a lot. So what future plans do you have for the Valley Restart Shelter?
I have a really pretty picture right over my head. Do you see it on the wall?
Oh wow. Is that like the main goal?
Yeah, I would love, we have 5 acres here. I would love that this 5 acres that was utilized, but with that at the back of the property.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 1941 building. It was built for migrant farm workers.
Mm-hmm.
It became the YMCA of Hemet, and then we bought it in 1995 and used it as a shelter. So I think if we're talking long-term goals, it would be that we would have a new building where, an example of this is that all of the 9 families that I have share 1 bathroom. And all of the singles that I have share 1 bathroom. That doesn't mean a toilet, it means that's a shower. So 1 person at a time or 1 family at a time goes in and uses it. So I don't know if you live in a house where there are other siblings and how many bathrooms there are and how long somebody gets to use the bathroom. But if you can imagine trying to get a whole family ready to go to bed or ready to go to school in the morning. So I have people that get up at like 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning in order to get their kids ready for school. I have people that as soon as dinner's done, their kids are are often in the shower in order to be able to get that done.
Do the kids that stay here still get to go to schools?
Yes, they have to be enrolled in school.
Yeah.
And there is a No Child Left Behind law that allows for, so let's say that you're from Nuevo and you became homeless and this is where your family came to stay. You're entitled to go to the school that you were attending before you became homeless. And it is the school district's responsibility to provide that transportation. So, because for children, their greatest stability is at school and wanting to be able to maintain that. So if children move here from out of the area and they haven't been in school, then even though our address is in Hemet, they go to the San Jacinto Unified School District, and so they would go to Park Hill or North Mountain or to San Jacinto High School.
What about the kids who aren't in shelters and stuff like that? Do you know?
Do I know of what?
If do the kids that aren't in shelters still have to apply to the same thing to go to school?
I mean, if their parents, like, were living in a car, or everybody's supposed to go to school. So some of how that gets monitored is that if you were getting welfare or cash aid or food stamps, if you're not attending school, there's a red flag that goes up. And so you can only miss, and I don't remember how many days, you can only miss so many days with the school talking to the parents and saying, your kids need to be in school, your kids need to be in school. And then what they will do is pull out the cash aid for the parent. So the incentive would be, wow, I need to get my kid back in school so that we can get all of the money that we need to in order for us to be able to live. And sometimes parents don't care. And it's, and so when the county would call it a sanction. When people are sanctioned, that means when they lose money or when they lose any kind of benefits. And so our goal here has to do with making sure that people get their sanctions removed if that were the case. So their kids have to be enrolled in school, or if there's an immunization barrier, like where kids are supposed to be immunized and the immunization hasn't happened, then the welfare can do that same kind of sanction. The third kind of sanction is that if the parents are supposed to be looking for a job and they're not, then there's a sanction. So if your mother were on welfare and there was only you and your mom, the income coming in from the county would be $540 a month. So you can't even rent an apartment for $540 a month, much less, provide any clothes or shampoo or anything like that. The reason that it's so low has to be there is that this should be a motivator for parents to go out and get jobs and be able to take care of their own kids. And as opposed to living in, we would call below poverty level. So that's there's a lot of living below poverty level that goes on. Reasons that people could end up homeless here have to do with, and I'll just say, so you and your mom came to stay with your aunt because there were no jobs in Texas, and she said come, and it turns out that she's in a 55-year-old plus housing, and you can only stay there 2 weeks. The property managers find out that you and your mom are there, and they say, we're gonna make your aunt leave her housing if you don't get out. And so now you're homeless in a town that you didn't know anything about. It was your aunt's good intention to be able to invite you, and now you're stuck. Or you were taking care of your grandmother passed away, you lost your grandmother, you lost your job, and you lost your housing all at once. And so, now you end up here. A lot of it is directly related to employment. People lose a job, they think that they're going to be able to find another job. Unemployment runs out, and they have no money, and so they get evicted, and they end up here. I'm trying to think if there are other reasons. Not that I can think of. So when we talk of ways that that you guys could affect change, I think that it has to do with providing accurate information about, what a shelter is and what a shelter does, is important. So the people who in any city, 1% of a city's population will be homeless in a year's period of time. 85% of those people move in and out of homelessness pretty quickly. Sometimes within days, sometimes within weeks. The 15% that doesn't move out, though, sometimes they'll get caught in that this is okay. And then it's this is okay. And so the analogy that I use has to do with all of us are entitled to a full piece of cake. So I don't understand what happens in this downward spiral that leads to homelessness that makes it okay to just get crumbs. Why is it okay that you just get crumbs? And that's very, very sad. That's something that happens here. It has to do with less is okay. Less and less and less is okay. And so those end up being the people that have the shopping carts, that are piled high with their stuff, or their backpacks with their sleeping bags, sleeping in a field or under a tree or behind a building, and having self-esteem disappear that way is something that is not easily fixed. So a sandwich is not going to fix that. I mean, giving somebody food is not going to fix that. That anybody who's homeless is entitled to food stamps. Almost everyone has food stamps, and I would say that most people have medical insurance, because if you have food stamps, on the back of your food stamp card there is a number that you could call where you could sign up for the government health insurance, what we would call Obamacare. So making sure that you have food and that you have medical care is something that is important. That in looking at sort of the homeless population that we have here, there is a criminal element that's homeless. They're not interested in anything that we have to offer. There's a drug element that is homeless, and they're not interested in recovery or anything that we have to offer. There's a mental health element that has to do with, typically they would have a mental health diagnosis. There would be probably people who should be on medication, meaning they were prescribed medication, but they're not taking it because taking care of themselves has fallen below where it is. They're into basic survival. And then there are the people who want help, who come, and those are typically the people that we can help. So, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been working here? Have you enjoyed every time that you come here?
Mm-hmm. I look forward to coming to work. This is, I'm in my 13th year here, and when I came here, it was for a 30-day job, and I said, what could I show you in 30 days, that would make you want to, keep me, and they laughed and they said, we only have money for 30 days. But it was the first time I've been unemployed in a little more than 35 years, so I took the job, and there was a day at day 31 where we had $1,500 in the bank and $22,000 worth of bills, and I thought, I wonder if this is the day they're talking about, and a check came that day for $21,000. So $21,000 and $1,500 makes $22,500. When you case manage people, so that you really make sure that everything gets done to the greatest possibility. We tell people that this is like the boot camp out of homelessness. So everybody here has chores. They all have to work around the property. They have to save money. They have to look for a job, or they have to have a job. If they're parents, they have to watch their kids. So you know how your parents may go to work and leave you at home. Well, that isn't, nobody can be left here. So even if you're 17 and 3/4 years old, if your mom or dad or grandmother is not here, then you're not here either. So we tell parents, you can look at it two ways. Wherever you are, your kids need to be, or wherever your kids are, you need to be. So anyone under the age of 7 has to be within eyesight of their parents. So if they're playing on the playground, the parents need to be on the playground. Not, well, I'm just gonna be in my room, you know, reading a book or lying down, or I'm gonna go use this time to go look for a job on the computer. It's like, no, because kids will be kids, you know, so all of a sudden they're throwing sand or, you know, they fall off the jungle gym or something, and so
they'll
the
run
parents.
off.
Mhm. Well, they can. It's really hard to run off because that area is all fenced in, so that probably wouldn't be the issue. But it's just about paying attention. And one of the cool things that a family, so they had 5 kids. They were here, mom and a dad. Is that because we have television, but we don't have stations. So there's a TV in the room, and you could use a VCR or a DVD, and so there's no internet in the rooms for people to. So there's no video games. There's none of that. So families learn how to communicate with each other again. They learn how to entertain. They learn how to talk. There isn't any of this stuff going on that for me is like a barrier to being able to communicate. And so they came and they said, wow, we found out what it was like to be a family again. We forgot. We got so busy just trying to survive that we forgot about what was most important, which is why we're surviving, which was for the kids. So it was really neat.
Have you ever had like a missing kid before?
Missing kid?
No.
I mean, a kid who was missing from somewhere out there,
Yeah.
coming here?
No, like here, out. No?
No. No, because of those rules that have to do with, you know, watching kids and stuff like that. So I have had teenagers who have left to go, you know, see their parent that's not here, not with our permission, not with the mom's permission, going to see the dad, you know, and has to do with mom, you need to do a better job of watching and supervising your kid, or you're not going to be able to be here. Because that is just really unsafe in this neighborhood.
And what about like a missing kid come here? Like, have you ever had that?
No, but if that were to happen, we would call the authorities.
Oh,
Because somebody loves them somewhere,
yeah.
you know, that probably wouldn't happen. We have people who come here whose needs are greater than what it is that we can take care of. And so we make referrals. Sometimes that means that we would call the authorities, whether it's, you know, the police, thank you, or Child Protective Services or Adult Protective Services, you know, somebody to be able to help that person. We had a great story of, there was maybe thinking of missing, there was 2 sisters that came in. They had been looking for their brother. They'd been looking for him for about 3 years, and they had a picture. And Bruce said, well, I know that I've seen that guy around, you know, how about if you leave me your number? And it was probably like 3 months later, you know, the guy came. And so we called the sisters and said, you know, are you still missing your brother? They lived up north, like Santa Barbara or something like that. And they go, yes. And he says, well, I'm looking at him. He goes, look, don't mess with me, you know. And he goes, no. Would you like to talk to him? And so we called it over to the phone, and, you know, like she's talking to him and she's wailing on the phone and he's crying. And so she sends money down for him to be able to go into a hotel, and she comes and rescues him, and so the families reunited.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, it was absolutely amazing. It was so heartwarming. It was just unbelievable.
It's like straight out of a movie.
I know. And he just looked so homeless. He looked so homeless. By the time that she came to pick him up, I don't think he looked homeless again. He'd had a shower, he'd been able to sleep for a couple days, you know, in the hotel bed, you know, get meals, because we gave him a box of food so that, you know, he could eat during the time that he was there. And it was really cool. Yeah.
That's, wow.
Okay, any more? Because I got, these are all people I have to interview, so I gotta go.
I think
I think
we're
that's
good.
it.
We're good? Okay.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.